Imagine moving into what you think is your dream cabin, only to discover that your next-door neighbor, a notorious HOA Karen, has decided your generator is hers to control. She didn't know it was wired to more than just power. Today, you're about to see exactly what happens when someone crosses the wrong person in a suburban showdown, and why this story ends with a shocking twist she'll never forget. Stay tuned because this isn't just about electricity. It's about karma, chaos, and one HOA Karen learning the hard way. Before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss any of these wild HOA battles that actually happened. You'll want to be the first to see every shocking moment as we unfold this drama. And don't forget to smash the like button if you love these true-life neighborhood showdowns. Now let's jump into the story. The day started like any other in the quiet suburb where I had just moved into my new cabin. Nestled on the edge of town, it was the perfect getaway, far enough from the city noise but close enough for convenience. I had spent weeks preparing for this move, carefully planning every detail, from furniture placement to wiring my backup generator to ensure power during storms. Little did I know my meticulous planning would soon clash with the notorious HOA Karen who lived right next door. She had a reputation that preceded her, a self-appointed neighborhood enforcer, always ready to write violations or call the authorities over the smallest perceived infraction. I tried to stay under the radar, but apparently some things, like my generator, were too tempting for her to ignore. Within the first week, Karen had already made her presence known. Her glare was a constant shadow over my backyard, her whispers carried through the fence, and her lawn looked pristine in a way that screamed competition. But what I didn't expect was her boldness in directly hijacking something as personal as my generator. One afternoon, during a minor blackout, I noticed the power flicker, only to realize that the circuits were being tampered with. It wasn't just a coincidence. Karen had managed to connect her own lines to my generator without permission. The audacity was staggering, but this wasn't a situation I intended to let slide. I spent hours tracing the wires, carefully documenting every connection and planning my next move. I decided to install a secondary circuit that would not only power my cabin, but also deliver a harmless but shocking feedback to any unauthorized tampering. I knew it was risky, but Karen had crossed a line that couldn't be ignored. The following day, as predicted, she returned, attempting once again to tap into my generator. This time, the setup worked as intended. A minor but startling shock coursed through her line, causing her to yelp and stumble back, completely caught off guard. Her expression of disbelief and fury was priceless, a moment I would remember for years. The neighborhood soon buzzed with rumors of the incident. Some admired my ingenuity, while others worried about the escalating feud. I kept my distance, knowing that Karen's next move could be unpredictable. But the thrill of finally having a taste of revenge without crossing the legal line was oddly satisfying. I spent the evening reinforcing my generator setup, making sure every connection was secure and the system was foolproof. Karen, on the other hand, was reportedly visiting the local hardware store repeatedly, presumably trying to find ways to bypass my defenses. The tension in the air was palpable, and I couldn't help but anticipate the next encounter with a mix of apprehension and amusement. As night fell, I watched from my porch, generator humming steadily, and felt a strange sense of satisfaction. This wasn't just about electricity. It was a small victory, a reminder that sometimes planning and patience pay off in ways that words alone cannot achieve. I knew the battle wasn't over, but for now I had won the first round, and that was enough to keep me on high alert and ready for what would surely come next. Little did I know Karen's response would escalate in ways I hadn't yet imagined, and the following week would test my nerves, my preparation, and my understanding of suburban warfare. The following week, the atmosphere around my property changed. Karen had clearly regrouped and was more determined than ever to assert her control. I observed her from a distance as she walked the perimeter of my property, clipboard in hand, documenting what she presumably considered violations. Her eyes darted to the generator, and I knew it was only a matter of time before she tried again. To prepare, I had upgraded my system with better insulation, reinforced wiring, and an even more effective feedback mechanism. The moment she touched it, the same jolt would ensure she thought twice about any future interference. Late one afternoon, as I was tending to the garden, I heard the faint hum of the generator being accessed. Karen had arrived. I didn't confront her immediately. Instead, I quietly watched as she leaned over, fiddling with the wires. Her confidence was palpable, but so was my preparedness. The second she made contact, a precise and harmless shock ran through the line, sending her stumbling backward and nearly toppling onto the grass. Her scream echoed through the quiet street, drawing the attention of a few neighbors who came to watch from a safe distance. Karen's face turned red, and I could see a mix of anger and disbelief. It was a moment of perfect irony. She had tried to intimidate me, only to be bested by my planning and ingenuity. Over the next few days, the story spread. Neighbors whispered about what had happened, some laughing quietly at the situation, others shaking their heads in disbelief. Karen's reputation took a hit, while mine, quietly, was becoming something of a legend among those who appreciated a clever and non-violent victory. I didn't stop there. I decided to implement subtle changes throughout my property, adding security cameras and additional deterrents to protect my home from further interference. Every wire, every outlet was meticulously secured, ensuring that Karen could no longer exploit my systems. The generator became more than just a backup power source. It became a symbol of standing one's ground and taking control of a situation without resorting to direct confrontation. As the days turned into weeks, I noticed a shift in Karen's behavior. She approached less often, her visits shorter, and her once bold demeanor was tempered by caution. It was clear she had learned a lesson, though not without leaving a lingering sense of tension that kept me alert. Yet there was a strange satisfaction in knowing that I had navigated the situation without escalating it to legal action, police involvement, or physical altercations. The neighborhood, meanwhile, seemed to watch from the sidelines, intrigued by the unfolding drama, perhaps wondering who would blink first. The balance of power had shifted subtly but significantly. I could enjoy my cabin in peace, at least for now, and the thrill of knowing that preparation and a bit of ingenuity had turned the tables on a notorious HOA, Karen, was an unspoken victory. The quiet evenings on the porch became my sanctuary, a time to reflect on the lessons learned and prepare for any future challenges. Knowing that in the world of neighborhood politics, vigilance was as important as courage. The stage was set for whatever she might try next, and I felt ready for any eventuality, confident that my careful planning had bought me both safety and a measure of triumph. Weeks passed, and the atmosphere stabilized, though the tension between me and Karen remained a silent undercurrent. I noticed she had stopped approaching the generator altogether, likely deterred by the memory of that shocking payback. But Karen was nothing if not persistent in her ways of exerting control. She shifted tactics, focusing on minor complaints and petty observations around the property line, attempting to catch me off guard in other areas. I had learned to anticipate these moves, documenting every interaction and keeping evidence of my compliance with all HOA regulations, even though I technically wasn't fully under their jurisdiction. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the tree line, casting long shadows across the lawn, Karen approached again. This time she wasn't after the generator directly. Instead, she tried subtly to manipulate my access to utilities, claiming there were code violations and that certain installations required inspection. I had expected this and had my paperwork in order. The encounter, while tense, ended with me calmly showing documentation, leaving her speechless and visibly frustrated. I realized that the key to winning these neighborhood battles wasn't just clever setups or shocking paybacks. It was patience, preparation, and the ability to remain composed under provocation. The generator incident had been the first move in a larger game, but it had taught me the value of strategy over confrontation. Over the next few weeks, I continued to observe, making incremental improvements to my property and documenting every interaction. Karen, meanwhile, seemed to oscillate between cautious avoidance and frustrated attempts at influence. The neighborhood watched quietly, some rooting for the infamous HOA Karen, others admiring my calm and calculated responses. The dynamic became almost theatrical in nature, a dance of tension and strategy that unfolded in the seemingly ordinary suburban setting. By the time autumn arrived, the once quiet neighborhood was buzzing with stories of the generator incident. Karen had become more of a cautionary tale than a formidable threat, and I had gained not only peace of mind but a certain respect from those who had witnessed the events from afar. Yet even in the calm, I remained vigilant. The experience had taught me that in any ongoing HOA feud, preparedness and calm decisiveness were far more effective than reacting emotionally. I reinforced my boundaries subtly, ensuring that Karen's attempts at control would continue to meet resistance, this time backed by patience, documentation, and the memory of that first shocking payback. The lesson was clear. Sometimes the most satisfying victories are those that don't require shouting, confrontation, or public spectacle. Only careful planning, observation, and knowing exactly when to let consequences do the talking. And as I sat in the evening glow, generator humming softly in the background, I understood that the real power wasn't in the electricity itself, but in the strategic patience that had allowed me to reclaim my space without creating further chaos. By winter, the battle had reached a quiet conclusion. Karen's attempts had become sporadic, her visits fleeting and cautious. My property was fully secured, and the generator, the initial flashpoint of this feud, now symbolized the careful balance of control and ingenuity. I had learned the subtleties of neighborhood power dynamics and the importance of forethought. Each wire, each circuit, each interaction had been a lesson in vigilance and strategic response. I could now enjoy the cabin with a sense of safety and satisfaction, knowing that I had navigated a potentially volatile situation with intelligence rather than aggression. Karen, ever persistent but now tempered by experience, had become a shadow of her former self, her attempts at interference dwindling in frequency and intensity. The neighborhood, meanwhile, seemed to have collectively absorbed the story, some admiring the cleverness, others relieved that the feud had de-escalated without escalating into true confrontation. I spent the winter months refining the setup, ensuring all systems were foolproof, and documenting procedures in case of any future attempts at interference. The generator had become more than a practical necessity. It was a testament to preparation, calm strategy, and the power of non-confrontational retribution. As the snow fell gently around the cabin, I realized the entire experience had been a masterclass in suburban resilience. I had learned to anticipate, adapt, and respond without losing composure or control. And though the saga with Karen would remain a story of neighborhood legend, the real victory lay in the knowledge that preparation, patience, and clever thinking could outmatch even the most persistent and bold adversaries. This chapter of my life closed with a quiet satisfaction, a personal triumph that didn't need applause, only the hum of a well-maintained generator and the peace of a home reclaimed from intrusion. The story wasn't just about electricity or a nosy HOA Karen. It was about the subtle art of standing your ground, knowing your rights, and executing a plan with precision and patience, leaving adversaries stunned without ever needing to raise a hand. Finally, as the first hints of spring approached, I could look forward to a neighborhood free of interference, my space secure, and the lesson of this electrifying confrontation firmly etched in memory. If you enjoyed this story and want to see more outrageous HOA drama, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a single moment of these wild neighborhood battles. Don't forget to like this video if you loved seeing karma in action and share it with friends who enjoyed jaw-dropping real-life stories. Your support helps me bring even more unbelievable HOA stories right to your screen, and trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next.